What's up, everyone? Welcome to, not going to call it an emergency podcast, but just a quick explainer of a podcast. The AVP League schedule came out. Well, not just the league schedule. There's not much more than the league schedule, but the whole AVP domestic beach volleyball schedule came out for the year. They published that on Tuesday. I'm recording this on Wednesday. We're going to have this go out on Friday. For anyone who's a member of the channel, you can get it a little bit earlier. So we're just going to do a quick review and answering the most pressing questions that we have for the AVP season. So we're just going to run down the AVP schedule. So there are two heritage events, and heritage is just another name for, there are two tournaments this season. There is one in Huntington Beach, May 10th and 11th, and then there is the annual Manhattan Beach Open. That is August 15th through 17th. And then there are a handful of what they call contender events. It's the AVP equivalent of a Futures or an AVP Next kind of deal. There's one in Palm Beach, May 24th, 25th. Virginia Beach, it's back. I love Virginia Beach. June 28th, 29th. Denver, as always, that July 4th weekend is July 5th and 6th. Tom Davenport, shout out, does an excellent job with that event. If you haven't been, highly recommend it. Would love to see that become a bigger deal one of these days. And then there is Wapaka. It's going back July 10th and 11th. So those are all the tournaments on the AVP schedule. For all intents and purposes, you got two tournaments. It's Huntington and Manhattan. And you got some feeder events for the contenders. So the league, meanwhile, will have its standard. It'll be the same format as last year. So you have the same quote-unquote cities. We'll just call them team names. You got the Palm Beach Passion, New York Nitro, all that. They stay the same. There are 8. And so there is one men's team, one women's team on each. So there will be a total of 16 teams, 32 players who make the league. The league will make its debut May 23 and 24 in Palm Beach. San Diego's next, June 6th and 7th. Miami is June 13, 14. New York, back to New York for the first time since 2019, June 21 and 22. A little bit of a break. Then we go to Los Angeles, July 11th and 12th. New York is July 18 and 19. Austin, Texas, which I think was probably home to the best AVP League event. Shout out to LJ Luciano and that Austin community. He did a great job. That's August 1 and 2. Dallas, back to Texas, August 8 and 9. And then there are the league championships. And the championships are the top 4 regular season teams. So they take 50% of the teams, take them to the playoffs. Then you do your championships. That's August 30 and 31st. That's standard Labor Day weekend in Chicago. And so a quick review. Got a couple things on the card. Again, we're not going to make this a super long podcast. It's just going to be a briefer on all things you need to know, and then just a couple notes on the overall sentiment. So how do you qualify for the league? So again, there are 8 spots. If you made the league championships last year being 2024, you are in, which would then, if everyone stayed together, would allow 4 spots left to qualify. So that would be Taylor Crabb, Taylor Sander, Andy Benish, Miles Partain. Who else was in that championship? Chase Budinger and Miles Evans, and Trevor Crabb and Theo Bruner for the men. On the women's side, it was Tony Rodriguez and, gosh, who is she playing with? Gina Urenko, the MVP. Kelly Chang and Sarah Hughes. It was April Ross and Alex Kleinman. And then Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg. However, some of those teams are no longer staying together. So Trevor Crabb, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but he's playing with Phil Dahlhauser. Theo Bruner's now playing with Troy Field. They have forfeited their spot. Taylor Sander, I know he's on an indoor contract in Indonesia, only runs through April. He'll be back for the start of the league, so he's living, making a 6-figure contract in Indonesia, comes back, plays the league. Dude's got it figured out. So there are 3 spots available for the men's side. On the women's side, there are also 3 spots. Haley and Kylie, they're going to stay together for the league. But April and Alex, they've retired, so they've given up their spot. I actually don't know for sure what they're doing. I would assume that they would keep Kelly Chang and Sarah Hughes' spot and allow Kelly to get an injury sub for Sarah Hughes, who tore her Achilles. That sucks for her. The only silver lining there is that it's the best possible timing. If you're going to have an injury in beach volleyball, it's after the Olympics. But man, that's brutal. Playing pickleball, stay away from pickleball. Guys, it's not even that fun. If you're on the beach, just stay on the beach. It's great out there. That aside, so there are 5 spots left for the men, 5 spots left for the women, which presents the most pressing question. If there are no events before that Huntington Heritage event on May 10th, 11th, how are you supposed to qualify? There will be 2 16-team single elimination qualifying events leading into Huntington Beach. The first is April 12th. The second is April 26th. And then so they will take that April 12th, April 26th, and the May 10th, 11th Heritage Series and create a leaderboard. So if you win on April 12th, if you win on the 26th, or if you win the Heritage event in Huntington, you have secured your spot into the league. The rest of these spots will go to a league leaderboard, which is created from that trifecta of events. And so all the events are worth the same amount of points. So basically, if you're not in the top 16, you don't really have, there's nothing to play a whole lot aside from those contender events. So we might see a lot of Americans punching their passports this year. Because if you're outside that top 16, you can't even try to qualify for the league, which renders your schedule to Huntington and Manhattan, in which case in Huntington, you still got to qualify anyway. I would assume it'll be a 16-team draw with a 32-team one-day qualifier. However, that said, man, are those qualifiers going to be high level? Because if you think about it, like you got Triborn and Evan Corey, they'll be in the qualifier. Trevor and Phil, they're going to be in the qualifier. Theo and Troy, they're going to be in the qualifier. On the women's side, Kristen and Taryn, Mel and Brandy in the qualifier. And so it's pretty wild. But so if you're local in Huntington, get out there. We're going to try to cover it somehow. We're going to have Frito down there. I don't know exactly how we're going to do it. I don't know what the AVP is doing as far as streaming goes, if they're going to stream that qualifier. If they're not, we're certainly going to try to figure out a way to at least stream the semis and finals matches for both the men and the women. We'll figure that out. But if you're down there, that is going to be some high level single elimination competition. It's like those secret NORCECA qualifiers that USA has every now and then. The one that'll get you into world champs, which actually there's going to be one later this year too. It's like the highest level volleyball that no one knows about. So April 12th, April 26th, 16-team single elim, high stakes qualifier. All right, so we got how to qualify. Another note that I made on the card, there's a notable lack of conflicts actually on the AVP schedule. I only have a handful. They were wise to schedule around Stade, which has been July 4th every single year for as long as I can remember. There is basically no conflicts. Hamburg will, that's notable, will conflict with the championships. I don't know how many teams that's actually going to impact, who would choose to go to Hamburg over the league championships, but the money's too good to skip the league championships, especially because you just show up and you get your payment. Prize money is still one thing we need to know. The players have been informed that prize money should be bumped, and the prize money is already pretty good. So and I mentioned that I want to touch on the overall sentiment, both from players and fans alike. Most of the players, a large number of them, obviously there are going to be some exceptions, they're pretty disappointed with the schedule. If you're in the league, to the AVP's credit, it's pretty good money. You get $5,000 for each one you show up to, so that's a guaranteed 20. And then if you make the league championships, that's another bump. If you win, that's another bump. So you can make relative to our sport, it's pretty good if you make the league. But with very limited opportunities to make the league, with very limited teams in the league, and with very limited things to play, events to play outside of the league, the players are not, in general, and I don't want to do a sweeping generalization, there are going to be some who are pretty fired up on it. If I were straight into the league, I'd be all right with it. But it might be a little bit tense is what I'm saying. And the fans, from what I've seen on social media, the fans seem to reflect that. We did a poll on our SANDCAST YouTube channel where 14% said that they loved it, really looking forward to the year. 14% said they liked it. The overwhelming majority is just kind of like, but hey, at least it's in the summer. So I think that's a great move that the AVP made. Last year they were in the fall, competing with the NFL, competing with college football, competing with baseball playoffs, competing with the NBA, and it's just a mess to do. But summer, as far as the sports slate goes, aside from the PGA Tour, it's pretty empty. And so they won't have that competition, which I think is a good move. And then the bottom half, a fair amount of people, hate's a strong word, but they are highly against it. And from what I've seen on the social media channels that I pay attention to, that seems to be pretty uniform across the board. I think the AVP did make a nice adjustment. They have league merch available on their website. That was a big request last year on Instagram, so they did add that, which was great. I think the AVP did a wonderful job on their social channels. The McKibben brothers, shout out to them, on how they covered the league. I think that they did a phenomenal job of that. That is, for the most part, all that's on the card. Like I said, I just wanted to make this one quick. And you can play this. I know that, as I just mentioned, there's a lot of disappointment both from the players and the fans alike on the schedule, how it's working out for the league. And I can see it from the AVP's perspective. They come in, you got these two new guys, Heath Freeman and Bobby Corvina. They come in, and you look at the tournament, the traditional style of running a beach volleyball tour. And I'm a tournament guy. And that's why I'm helping Mark Paolui run the Hermosa Open again. That'll be, the dates are still being confirmed and signed and delivered by all parties involved, but early September, look out for that. No conflicts with that event either. But you look at it, and the traditional tournament style of beach volleyball, the business model was broken. I mean, the AVP was losing in the tens of millions for a long time. And these new guys come in, they're like, hey, we need to change something. And change is always very difficult. And you look, I'll use social media as an example, and any time that Facebook changes how it looks, how you do things, there's just riots and people hate it. And then you get used to it and you look back at the old platforms, you're like, man, we use that archaic system? That's unbelievable. And I think that that's just going to be something that the AVP, clearly they're focused on building the league. And it's not they're not super in the tournament running business because that has proven to be an unsustainable financial model. Now, the other side of the argument is that, well, couldn't you just tweak how you run tournaments? And that's kind of what Mark did with Hermosa, came out to a break-even event, which for beach volleyball is an unbelievable thing to do. But I get it from the AVP's perspective that you want to change what you're doing and try something that has never been tried. Will it work? We're going to find out. So I'm interested to see how it goes this summer. It's actually really fun for me just being afar from it. I have no stake in the game. So I'm just a fan of beach volleyball. My stake is right here, Florida State. Go Noles. And so I just get to watch, and I get to root on my friends, and I hope the sport grows. Hope it gets bigger. That's what we're trying to do with the podcast. And so if you have any questions, just drop it in our YouTube comment section. Happy to answer anything that I know. This is pretty much all that I know at the moment. So love all you guys, and let's go Noles. And if you can get out to Huntington Beach, get out there. And if you have any ideas how you want us to cover that event, would love it. We're trying to figure out how best to do it as well. We'll obviously be busy playing. We'll have Frito out there in some capacity. So just let us know what you want to see from those Huntington events. We'll make it happen. All right, shoots.